Hi, folks. Do you ever wonder sometimes about variable abuse and how you can be abused in different ways? Well, I have a book here that is very interesting to women to let them know what variable abuse is. And I plan on reading some of it so you can get an idea of it. It's called Two Kinds of Power, a Broad Perspective. There are two kinds of power. One kills the spirit, the other nourishes the spirit. The friend is power over, the other is personal power. Power over shows up as control and dominance. Personal power shows up as mutuality and co-creation. Mutuality is a way of being with another person which promotes the growth and the well-being of oneself and the other person by the means of clear communication and empathetic understanding. Co-creation is consciously shared participation in life which helps one reach one's goals. These ideals will be discussed more fully in Chapter 3 and 5. Since variable abuse is symptomatic of personal, cultural, and global problems which originate with the misuse of power, I shall begin with a broad perspective of a comprehensive look at power over. Power over is one model of how the world is believed to work. A belief in power over resembles a lens through which believer views the world. Someone who believes in power over expects to get what he or she wants through the use of power over another. Our Western civilization was founded on the power over. Now, as a civilization, we have tremendous power over the earth and its peoples and resorts. We have power over to wipe out our world. We have the power of total destruction. The power over model is, I believe, no longer tenable some of the symptoms of living. And of course, I have to turn the page here, folks. But it sums up how a person is when they are variably abusive. Acting through the paradigm are pollution, potential global annihilation, hunger and homelessness, prejudice and tyranny. These concerns bring into sharp focus our regard of human dignity and quality of life. The power over paradigm holds power over life. Power over life may deny the value and quality of life. The power over model of control and dominance has premeditated individual consciousness for thousands of years and has taken us to the brink of global chaos. Our science shows us that out of chaos, new order arises. Where will the new order come from? It cannot be legislated, nor can it be established through more wars and more power over. I believe this new order can arise only out of individual consciousness for this reason: the recognition of variable abuse as a means of controlling, dominating, and having power over another person is of real concern to us all. Since the microcosm of personal relationship influences the microcosm of civilization, such as civilization, its custom and culture influences personal relationship. It is in our relationships that we might affect this change. If so, an opportunity is present today in our everyday lives. It is the opportunity we have to value ourselves, to awaken to the way we express and protect that value in our relationships. If we are to recognize the free ourselves from the influence of the power over model, we must hear ourselves. What words we speak and in what manner we speak to them. Likewise, we must hear the words spoken to us and the manner in which they are spoken. This awareness can bring us to the realization of how we do or do not. Dignity, respect, protect, and esteem ourselves ultimately all life. We can begin by having faith in our own value and by trusting our own perspectives. This may be very difficult for the partner of a verbal abuser, because verbal abuse creates victims just as any other subversive system does. Verbal abuse, by its very nature, undermines and discounts its victims' perspectives. Few of the women I have interviewed were aware of what was happening to their relationship. Certainly, they did not see themselves as victims. They just knew something was wrong. If one of them had left relationship, very often her reasons for leaving involved other issues. In verbally abusive relationship, the partner learns to tolerate abuse without realizing it and to lose self-esteem with realizing it. She is blamed by the abuser and becomes the scapegoat. The partner is then the victim. Interestingly, in Christian thought, Christ was the last victim and the last scapegoat. He died for all humanity. This message seems to have been extracted by prevailing worldwide of the power over and might make rights, which also, of course, makes victims and scapegoats. As we will see, the victims of verbal abuse must rest a sense of their own value and their self-esteem from the most disempowering and confusing of circumstances. They can do so by recognizing verbal abuse for what it is. What is the origin of power model? It is the result of and the perpetrator of poisonous pedagogy, discussed in Alice Miller's book For Your Own Good and John Bradshaw's work. A poisonous pedagogy is a toxic method of teaching or raising a child. It is a method which controls the behavior of the child by the misuse of power over the child. This misuse power causes the child extreme pain. If the child becomes an adult without having worked through the hurt and pain of experience, he will perpetuate the misuse of power in adulthood. Consequently, the adult can become toxic or poisonous to others. This toxicity is what we find in abusive relationships. We have looked at the power over model at the fact that individuals as well as nations are motivated to control, dominate others. We may note that their illusion of power is maintained only as long as they have other to have power over. Tragically, many are desperate to maintain this stance because it is only power they know. If there is no other, one is created. Personal power is another way of experiencing power, one which needs winners and losers, dominant people and subordinates, and which doesn't require power over another. Personal power works by mutually co-creation. Maybe personal power works by the mutuality and co-creation and may be considered a way of being in the perceiving of the world. Let us explore these ideals of contents of the relationship, for here is where we often find two people living and perceiving through the two different models. One is living by power over, the other is personal power. Through these lenses, these two people may see neither each other nor each other's reality. As I researched variably abusive relationships, the most significant and surprisingly discovery that I made was that variable abuser and partner seem to be living in two different realities. The abuser's orientation was towards control dominance. The partner's orientation was towards mutuality and co-creation in many respects. They were in two different realities. In order to understand them better, let us assume that they do live in separate realities, and for simplicity, let us call these realities reality, and reality 2, reality 1, and reality 2 correspond to power over and personal power models. In other words, those who feel power through dominance and control, power over, are living in reality 1. Those who fed power through mutuality and creativity, personal power, and are living in reality 2. It seems that we live in a world that cannot yet accept reality 2, while the dangers of remaining in reality 1 became more evident, unable to begin thinking according to the new model. We live under the threat of annihilation, seemingly caught between conflicting realities. We can move out of this conflict and struggle by understanding that what happens when people from these two realities form a relationship. And if we are in reality 2, becoming adept at recognizing people who are in reality 1, for example, all is fair, love, and war is a reality number 1 perception. Below is an example of what may happen in a relationship when each person is in a different reality. If the partner of the abuser grew up under influence of reality number 1 and then emerged in reality 2, she may find it extremely difficult to distinguish between two realities. She may be living in reality 2, seeking mutuality without having achieved reality 2. Self-esteem. Rather like a fish out of water and not yet amphibian. A significant fact I discovered was that many women living in reality too accepted and responded to communication from reality as if the communication were valid. The following example shows how that can happen. It may be worthwhile to read this example a couple of times because it illustrates a core problem in abusive relationships. Anne is reality too, and she believes that Z is reality too with her. We know that he isn't. As you follow their conversation, you will see how Anne slips for a moment into a place between reality 2, where she lives reality 1. Where Z lives, also, you will see how Anne assumes all along that Z is her reality. Z walks into the room, flops onto the chair near Anne, and says casually, "Boy, are you uncooperative." He is R1 power over and now fills 1 up. Anne, looking slightly perplexed, says, "Why do you say that?" She responds as if Z's statement were valid. She thinks Z is in her reality of mutuality and has some reason to say, "You are an uncooperative person." Z is now ready to begin battle for dominance and power over to him. Anne seems often to hearing why she is an uncooperative person. He answers her question in a touch of anger and barely discernible note of triumph. "Because you didn't help me pick the fruit." Anne then feels she must defend herself. She says, "But I didn't know you were picking it." Z snaps back, "Well, I was." And in his mind, he has won. He has just acted out a power over model. He has attacked Anne's basic perception of herself, and she was given credence to what he said by asking why. Z is unaware of Anne's reality. Z is feeling pretty good. At this point, Anne feels hurt and frustrated. She cannot seem to get Z to understand that she is cooperative. She feels some disempowerment and some confusion about what he expected and why he didn't tell her that he wanted some help picking the fruit. She doesn't realize that the whole interception wasn't about picking the fruit. She doesn't perceive Z's reality at all, because he often tells her how much he loves her, and to her, love means mutual empowerment, not power over. If Anne had said, I felt hurt when you said that I was uncooperative," Z is as confirmed verbal abuser, would have discounted her by saying the example, "You're making a big thing out of nothing," or sarcastically, "Well, if that's the way you want to take it, then sorry." Anne would be left feeling hurt and confused. If Z were in reality too, Anne's reality, he would have said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I guess I just wished you'd have known I was picking the fruit so I wouldn't have to ask you for help." Then we could say Z really was being crabby, all right, but he regrets his irritability. If Anne had grown up in reality too environment, she would have recognized that there could never be some reason for Z to say, "You're not cooperative." She would therefore have recognized that Z was not in her reality. She would have said something like, cut it out immediately, knowing herself to be cooperative. She wouldn't accept any disparagement, and she wouldn't be left with frustration of wondering why she can't get him to understand. She would know he doesn't care to understand. He is more interested in, I win, you lose. Because after all, in reality, that is how one feels power. Okay, folks, that sums it up right there. Z was trying to say that she didn't want to be cooperative, and Ann did want to be cooperative. So there you go. That's just the start of some of the bearable abuse that people don't realize. It's because they don't pay attention. They don't listen sometimes to how the partner's coming across. But anyway, I hope that helps you. I hope you have a good day. Bye.